I told you this privately as well, but I kind of want to. I kind of, I feel like even the debate that I had with Andrew Wilson, where he still kind of suspects me of being very hostile toward him, which is why he takes anything that I say with great with great care about this. But even the debate that I had with him, I kind of went ahead with it because we agreed to it, a long time ago. But I think as when I started becoming a catechumen, as I started progressing in that, the more I went into it, and especially over the last few weeks, I have been less and less interested in having, you know, uh, strong disagreements on political matters or worldly matters, as you might want to call it, and have been more interested in just trying to make peace. And it's very difficult when you are online and when you talk politics online. I understand that, which is why I'm
Right.
trying to do that less and less at the moment, at least. Uh,
And also, I think Islam is kind of
wait,
bound
Jay.
up with politics.
Jay, something just happened. David suddenly wanted to say something despite being quiet the
My
entire
bad.
time.
Well, it was finally a topic I was slightly interested in. But no, this goes back to when you guys were first talking at the very beginning, and you were saying, well, we went after each other on this and so on. But that's pretty darn normal given certain personality types. It's something that before anything, you're talking back in like 2000, 2007, 2008, 2009, I was rolling with various, I'm not going to name any names, but, counter jihadis behind the scenes. People who are concerned about jihad and responding to the jihad threat. And it's a mixture. There were Christians of all kinds, some atheists, some Jews, and so on. And they would people would work together and have conferences and so on. I was there behind the scenes. They're like at war behind the scenes over various things. And I kind of realized over time, wait, the people who are going to speak out and stand their ground on an issue like jihad or something like that, even though politicians and journalists and everyone's just going to blast them, and Muslims and raining down threats on their lives and threats to their families and so on. So you kind of catch it from every direction. If you're a Christian, you started going after jihad and tying it to Islam back in 2008, you got blasted from every single direction. Politicians were calling you Islamophobes. Journalists are writing articles about you, calling you Islamophobes. They're putting you on hate group lists and so on, beside Nazis and so on, just for criticizing jihad. If you're a Christian, even Christians are blasting you. They're saying you're too mean, you shouldn't criticize, and so on. So you're catching it from every single direction. And like the person who's going to stand his ground in those situations and keep pushing, generally people who don't like to put up with a lot of crap, right? It's look, once I've made up my mind on something, I'm not backing down under any circumstances. So those are the people who are going to last and continue going after jihad, even when there's an onslaught. So it's just so everyone knows, if you weren't around in 2008, you have no idea how much it sucked back then. It is much, much better right now if you're criticizing jihad than it was back then. Back then, everyone attacked you. But anyway, the people who are being attacked by everyone and are still going to just keep pushing forward generally have a pretty aggressive, pretty confrontational, don't back down type attitude. The thing is, you put a bunch of people like that together, eventually there's something they disagree on. And it's just instant war, just personality wise. I'm the sort of person who doesn't back down. You're the sort of person who doesn't back down. We're both really aggressive. Oh, now we disagree. And it's a war. And by the way, the people back then who even like publicly, they were doing conferences together, but privately were having problems. They don't even work together now. They couldn't keep it up. They couldn't keep it up long term. So I'm just looking at that going, oh, well, that's kind of a side feature of people who are willing to stand their ground against jihad, is they're probably not going to be the sort of people who work well in groups together, because they eventually disagree on something. They go and they fight over it. So when you guys are saying, oh, we had this disagreement, we fought over it, I'm thinking, of course, that's what you guys do. That's what guys with these personality types do. So that's kind of normal. The issue for me is, what do you do afterwards? But also, what happens when you have entire groups that are like this, right? My entire group is aggressive and confrontational and doesn't back down, and your entire group is aggressive and confrontational, doesn't back down, and then you end up with all these groups, and now it's not just an individual who, now it's not just two individuals who can have a beef and then squash it. It's you got entire groups, and even if two people, a person from each one of those groups squashes the beef, you still got the groups that are going after each other. And just the way groups are, if an entire group is really aggressive towards another group, and a person within that group says, hey, let's make peace, well, the group is just going to pick someone else. They're just going to, okay, you get it. Okay, if you're trying to make peace with these guys, you get out of the way. We're going after the guy. We'll pick someone else. So anyway, that's kind of never bothers me too much when someone goes after each other. It's kind of the cost of admission to people who are engaging with the kinds of things that all of us have to engage with right now. The bigger concern is that in the age of the internet, very, very easy for group to form and then go to war with everyone else on the drop of a dime. And so it's a rough situation.
I thought you were never going to stop talking, man.
Well,
so Jay, you were saying?
So, as you guys know, Islam doesn't really see a distinction really between religion and politics. They're kind of wedded. I think Christianity sees a relationship. Maybe sometimes in certain sectors it's emphasized in terms of the division. And I don't mean to criticize your point about not wanting to get into political debates, but one of the reasons that I think you guys might agree, maybe not, that it is relevant to talk about the geopolitical side of this is that there's a lot of people in power in the West who either out of ignorance about Islam or because they see it as an ally or a useful tool, they're open to and pro-Islam, even, especially on the left. There's definitely a tendency to have this alliance between, the left and various versions of or factions of Islam, not understanding that Islam will pretend to be friendly, as the Quran says, and then once you're in power, you can flip the script. You don't have to be friendly anymore.
Hey,
right?
Well, I just wanted to point out, because while you guys were talking about all the various things in different parts of the world, that's normally how I'm interpreting these things. Is like take Iran right now. If a bigger threat in the area emerged than Iran, and Iran could be used by the United States to deal with that problem, the United States would suddenly be like pro-Iran. Yay, Iran, you're our buddies now because we want you to help us. Well, I mean, this thing happens. Like, if you have communists and you're trying to halt the spread of communism, and you're talking like Afghanistan or something like that, who do you want? You want people who are going to like stand and not back down and fight to the death. Who do you want? You want a bunch of jihadis on your side. And so you'd say, hey, let's align with the jihadis in this situation. Problem is, eventually the communists go away, and it's just the jihadis that you helped, and now the jihadis take over, and you've got this other problem. You've got another problem, and I think, where AP mentioned it, like short-sighted thinking. It's so. In other words, there can always be conspiracy. And I know there are conspiracies and so on. I normally interpret things like that as just leaders just tend to always think, okay, here's the threat we're concerned with. Here's a group that can help us with that threat. And therefore, let's support this group. And then the threat eventually is dealt with. And then all you've got this group is that you helped rise to power, or you funded them with money or something like this. And then they grow out of control. And then you can't control them anymore. And as Jay was just pointing out, if you're talking about jihadis, they'll say whatever. Of course, Great Britain, of course, we'll be on your side. Yeah, just support us against our rivals, because you don't like those rivals. Yeah, we don't like them either. We don't like them for completely different reasons. We don't like them for this reason. You don't like them for that reason. But yeah, go ahead and support us. And then, so anyway, I think that happens all the time. So it's a sad feature of shallow, superficial, let's just say short-term thinking, that we're creating monsters all over the place. It's just when you create a monster, you can always view that in two ways. That, they were trying to create a monster, or
nobody wants to see Marshall no more.
Yeah. We were trying to create you could say, hey, they're trying to create a monster. They were plotting to make this monster here. Or they were worried about something else and they created a monster because they're stupid and they didn't realize what they were doing. Again, there can be situations where people are trying to create monsters. I normally just interpret those things as because I have a low view of like people's thinking ability on a lot of these issues, especially on Islam. Just seeing too much of it. People are too stupid. They're thinking, hey, they've just been bombarded all their lives with all religions have their radicals and stuff. And haven't you had that in Christianity? So that's all the jihadis are over there. So long term, if we keep buddying up with them and helping them in various ways, the jihadis' hearts will melt. And everyone's done that. Europe's done that. United States has done that. Israel does that. Israel's fine with like Hamas leaders becoming billionaires and stuff, because in their thinking, it's, hey, these guys are going to become rich. They're not going to want to attack anymore. They'll have too much to lose. They'll be billionaires. They'll be good to go, man. And it doesn't work.